Good to have you with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Why doesn't the president have the authority he asked for to use military force against ISIL? It's been in the Congress for 16 months. That's kind of fallen by the wayside, hasn't it? Yes, it was John McCain from Arizona and Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, who 16 months ago stepped to the plate and says, we got to give the president the tools to do what he has to do to defeat ISIS. This is Kaine on the Senate floor yesterday.
This threat is mutating and growing, and at the end of last week, on Friday the 13th, we saw the horror of ISIL with the grim assassination of innocents as they were enjoying dinner or going to music concerts or watching soccer games in Paris. ISIL put out a video a few days ago threatening similar attacks on Washington. ISIL's not going away. This is a threat, and the president started military action for a narrow and limited reason, but the threat has mutated. Like a cancer, it's grown, and it is now affecting nations all over the world. And so the question is, how long will Congress continue to be silent about this?
Well, that is a great question, and that's what the American people want to know. I think that there clearly is an anti-Obama element playing out here by the Republicans, that they don't want to see this president have any measurable success whatsoever, and they want to leg up on national security and immigration come election cycle. Well, here we are. Let's go to Congressman Alan Grayson, who's a member of the Progressive Caucus, Democrat from Florida. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed.
What do we do here? Why doesn't the president have this force, and do you think he needs this authorization?
Ed, respectfully, I did listen to your introduction, but this is one of those very rare moments when I have to disagree with you.
That's what I want to hear.
It is true that a lot of the animus the Republicans have toward the president has figured into the failure to pass a war authorization. But the fundamental reason why we haven't passed one is because the president hasn't come up with a valid plan to actually defeat ISIS. If the president had that authorization, he'd be doing exactly what he's been doing up to this point, which has been entirely ineffective. I have suggested in the alternative that we help to gather together a local Arab Sunni force on the ground to defeat ISIS. Neither the State Department or the president has shown much interest in that plan, even though local countries have agreed to contribute troops to it. That's what we need to do. That has nothing to do with the authorization of the use of military force. It's true that when we look on our TV screens and on our computers and we see horrific acts, we feel like we need to do something. We need to do the right thing, not just something. And the fact of the matter is that we can't go and bomb every time we see something bad happen in the world. That's not going to stop it from happening. We need valid, proven plans, and we haven't seen one yet.
So, Congressman, you think that there are countries in the Arab world that are willing to codify and go after ISIS, and we're somewhat standing in the way of that?
Yes. In fact, that's exactly what's happening. The Egyptians are willing to send troops. The Turkish government's willing to send troops. What they want is the United States to stop blocking that effort, because the United States clings to this idea that we can somehow conjure up a free Syrian army, and that we can somehow put the Humpty Dumpty of Iraq back together again. The United States has told all the countries in the region that only the United States forces should be foreign forces in these countries, not anyone else's forces. And we've actively prevented the Arab League from coming together and dealing with this joint threat.
So it sounds like that the administration's plan all along has been to unseat Assad, and that will be the linchpin to defeating ISIS. Clearly, we're seeing that ISIS is outside the borders of Syria. And these attacks, these three attacks in the last several weeks, which no one predicted and there was no intel on it, and they just happened. Is this, in your opinion, a game changer?
Well, the Turks claim they did have intel on it, and I don't know for a fact whether it's true or not, because I haven't seen our intel yet. It might well be a game changer, but let's face it, the French reaction doesn't seem to come up with anything that's any more effective than what our military has done up to this point. It's ridiculous to think that dropping 34 bombs on Raqqa is going to turn the tide of that war. There are ground troops needed. I don't think they should be our ground troops. I think they should be local ground troops that understand the language, understand the religion, understand the customs, and are not seen as an occupying foreign force. That's what needs to happen. As far as I can see, that's the only winning plan to defeat ISIS. And an authorization for the use of military force would not change that chemistry at all.
And what about the Russian dynamic? Now that they have stepped up airstrikes in response to their innocent civilians being brought down on that passenger liner in the Sinai, where does this take us?
Well, it's the same basic failed idea that you could win a war against an irregular non-army from the air. These are people who don't wear uniforms. They don't march in formation. They don't have tanks. They don't have airplanes. It's a different kind of war. And we can't use 19th century tactics against that kind of 21st century irregular non-army. Mm-hmm. We need a new approach.
This is Senator Jeff Flake on the Senate floor from Arizona talking about the talking about the authorization for the use of military force.
It's our responsibility. We are the Article I branch. We're the branch that is supposed to declare war. And we need to do that here. It's time. It's well past time that we move on this. And hopefully the events of the past couple of weeks, the attacks that happened in Paris, the bombing of a plane, the other suicide bombings that have occurred, our commitment of new resources will convince us all that it's time to act here in Congress.
Your response to that, Congressman?
Well, it's interesting that our neoconservatives are the folks who are in favor of any war, anywhere, anytime, any place, want us to go to war when, in fact, the French haven't even asked us to do that. Mm-hmm. The NATO treaty has a specific provision in it to actually make that a request. It's under Article 4 of the treaty, and the French have not invoked Article 4. So why are we anxious
that, of course, would force the 28 member nations of NATO to respond to that request, to basically weigh in on what they see their involvement, correct?
Yes, so if the French don't want us to go to war, then why are we going to war on their behalf? Why are we going around the world trying to do everyone else big favors when we don't seem to get that treatment from any one of them?
Interesting take. Congressman Alan Grayson, always great to visit. Appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.